The auction hall quieted as the final lot was presented, an unmarked lacquer box, worn with age and mystery.
This is my chance. No one else even looked at it. She can't possibly know what it's worth.
But before the auctioneer finished his call, a burgundy-haired woman in the front row lifted her paddle. The bidding war that followed was brutal and immediate, each increment sharper than the last.
Why is she doing this? A year of bleeding my business dry over a box with no papers.
Stop bidding. We're after the same thing, and you don't even know it.
Yamato's paddle hung in the air, his hand suddenly heavy as stone. The auctioneer's gavel rose. Once, twice, the crash came down like a verdict.
What did she mean? The same thing.
Silence swallowed the hall as Reina claimed the lacquer box, her secrets still coiled in the air between them.
Wait, you can't just leave without an explanation. Not after what you whispered in there.
I expected you to follow. You've been chasing me for a year. Why stop now?
What's in that box? You said we're after the same thing. I need to know why.
Reina set the lacquer box on a polished marble table and lifted the lid without ceremony.
Nothing of obvious value. Old letters, brittle notebooks. But to me, it's everything.
Letters. That doesn't explain a year of bleeding my business dry. Unless...
They were my grandfather's, stolen in the chaos of war. I've been buying them back, one by one.
Your grandfather lost a collection. So did mine. That's why I've been at every auction. We've been fighting over the same broken pieces, different halves of the same story.
Then we need to put them together. Bring your pieces to your shop. I'll be there by noon.
Yamato's shop glowed warm against the afternoon rain, shelves of antiques crowding the small space.
I won this vase 3 months ago. Chinese, early 20th century or so, the auction house claimed.
Wait, I've seen this exact piece before. My grandmother kept a photograph of it.
Reina slid an old photograph across the counter, a grainy image of the same vase, unmistakable. Yamato lifted the vase to the lamp and tilted it, revealing a tiny engraved mark hidden inside the rim.
Look, my pendant has the same mark. It's been in my family for generations.
The same hand made these pieces. They were always part of one collection.
My grandfather wrote about a trusted partner, someone he planned to rebuild with after the war, but they never met again.
A partner. Could my grandfather have known him? We lost so much too.
We need to find his name. The city archives might hold the answer.
The city archive stretched in silence, tall shelves crammed with forgotten records.
Here, a partnership agreement. Takeshi and Ryohei, our grandfathers, joined in business.
There's another paper behind it. A letter addressed to my grandfather from yours.
You sold the collection. I trusted you, and you betrayed me. The accusation was raw in the faded ink.
My grandfather believed yours stole everything. That's the grudge our family carried for decades.
Number. My grandfather never did that. He lost everything. He died poor and broken.
Then why this letter? Why would he lie?
I can't prove it now, but I know my grandfather was innocent. I won't let you bury him again.
She walked out without another word, the letter clutched in her fist.
What if we're both wrong? What if the truth is something worse?
Back in his shop, Yamato traced a finger along the ledger's margin. A faded entry read, Suzuki, broker.
A third man. The broker handled the sale. Not my grandfather, not hers.
He grabbed his phone and called Reina, his voice tighter than he intended.
What now? Another family story I need to hear.
A name. Suzuki. He brokered the collection. I think he's the one who sold it and blamed your grandfather.
Minutes later, they sat across from each other in a near-empty cafe. The laptop opened between them.
If this is true, then my grandfather was set up. The betrayal never happened.
Yamato pulled up a digitized police report. Suspect: Suzuki. Theft of antiquities. Circumstantial evidence. Possession.
He didn't just steal the collection, he destroyed a partnership.
Then we finish this. We find the proof and clear Ryohei's name.
The great aunt's house smelled of cedar and old paper. She led them to a wooden chest by the window.
My grandmother never threw a letter away. If proof exists, it's in this chest.
From the chest, the great aunt lifted a bundle tied with faded ribbon, letters sealed but never mailed.
This one, it's from my grandfather to yours. He wrote it just before he passed.
The letter read, "My dear friend, I swear on our work. I never sold the collection. I am innocent. Please believe me."
The anger I grew up with was built on a lie. Your grandfather was innocent all along.
He never sent it. Maybe he thought it would change nothing, or that he'd be rejected again.
Yamato set the fragile letter on the table and slowly reached for Reina's hand.
We'll finish what they started. We'll bring the collection back and let the world know the truth.
No more rivals. From now on, we're partners, just like they meant to be.
Yamato and Reina stood at the gates of a sprawling modern estate. The address pulled from old auction records.
If we can convince him, we'll have almost every piece. No more fighting.
Inside, the collector, a sharp-eyed man in his 70s, examined the letter and the police report without expression.
We have proof of innocence and the partnership. These belonged to both families. We only want to reunite them.
The collector set down the documents and folded his hands. Provenance from an accredited expert. Without it, the collection stays in my vault.
Provenance. We have the contract, the maker's marks, the letters. Isn't that enough?
He shook his head, unmoved. Authentication and a clean chain of ownership. It's not emotional. It's law.
A certificate of authenticity and a history paper. That could take months.
They left the estate with a heavy stillness between them, the weight of the task ahead pressing on their shoulders.
We'll find an expert. Whatever it takes. This isn't over.
Reina worked her phone relentlessly, each unanswered call tightening the knot in her chest. On the third day, a retired museum appraiser answered, Kaneshiro. He agreed to examine the pieces. His studio was a maze of books and curios. They laid out the vase, pendant, and letters. Under the bright lamp, the magnifier caught the maker's mark, curved and deliberate.
If he refuses to certify it, we're finished. The collector will sell to someone else.
He set the pendant beside the vase, then read through the letters. A slow nod followed.
He says the provenance is unbroken. The marks, the contracts, it's enough for a full certificate. But it will take 2 weeks. And the cost is 1,500. We don't have that.
I'll sell some of my stock. It'll hurt, but we need this.
They paid half now, half on delivery. The waiting stretched every hour into a threat. The 10th morning, Yamato taped a for sale sign to his shop window, the glass cold under his fingers. Across town, Reina signed over the title to her sedan, pocketing cash that already felt spent. They met on a park bench high above the city, the skyline fading into orange dusk.
I've run that shop 8 years. Just glass and shelves, but it feels like giving up a part of myself.
That car was the first thing I bought alone. I know that hollow feeling.
She understands without me explaining. That's rare.
I used to curse your paddle number. Now I can't imagine sitting beside anyone else.
Neither can I. We started as enemies, but somewhere along the way.
Their hands rested on the bench between them, pinkies barely an inch apart, neither closing the distance. Whatever was growing between them, it would have to wait. The report was due in 4 days. On the 14th day, a thick envelope arrived by courier. Yamato tore it open right there in the hallway. The authentication certificate named Takeshi and Ryohei as original proprietors, linking every piece in their family's inventories. At the collector's estate, Reina handed him the binder, her jaw tight. He flipped through it, then closed it with a snap. The price is now 120% of what we discussed.
That's more than we have, more than we're worth. This can't be the end.
Then we adjust. We'll apply for a joint loan against the collection's appraised value.
The bank's lighting was cold. Yamato placed the report on the desk like a weapon.
This collection is valued at triple what we're asking. The provenance is unimpeachable.
The loan officer examined it, then pushed a form across the desk. Sign here. Outside the bank, they didn't speak. The city noise rushed back, and they just stood, shoulders touching, debtors of hope. The auction house was standing room only, the air thick with cigar smoke and expectation. From the back, a shadowy bidder lifted paddle, 47 with the cold rhythm of a metronome.
A professional rival. He's pushing every lot beyond our planned limit, and he knows it.
One more lot like this, and we'll be over budget before we've even reached the painting.
Their eyes met across the charged space. A silent agreement formed without a single word. In unison, their paddles snapped upward. A single, unbroken front against the rival in the corner. Paddle 47 hesitated, then answered with a savage increment that swallowed their safety margin.
This is everything. If we lose now, there's no recovery, only ruin.
The auctioneer's gavel rose, held a breath, and slammed down with the force of a verdict. The painting was theirs. The collection was whole, but every cent of the loan had burned in the fire of that final bid. The warehouse smelled of dust and possibility. In the far corner, the last wooden crate waited.
Decades in the dark. I wonder if the colors are still alive.
Together, they pried the lid loose. Wood groaned, then gave way to a scent of age and varnish.
A mountain landscape. The brushwork is still sharp after all these years.
They lifted the painting free, tall as a man, colors muted but proud, the joint's signature barely visible. Piece by piece, they arranged the collection in the sealed room. Vases, scrolls, books, and the painting at the center. For the first time in 70 years, the whole stood together. The air itself felt different.
They were never enemies. Not them, not us. We were just slow to understand.
Without a word, their hands found each other, not as lovers, but as keepers of a shared, restored truth. The legacy was whole. Whatever came next, this moment belonged only to them. With the collection assembled, they began the patient work of cataloging, reuniting each piece with its history. Reina reached inside the tallest vase, her fingertips searching for a maker's mark. Her fingers brushed against paper, a small folded square wedged against the inner curve for decades. The note read in faded ink, "Thank you, my friend, Ryohei."
He hid it here. A thank you, buried where only a collector would ever look.
He never stopped believing in their bond, even when the world told him he was a traitor.
Reina's composure cracked. The tears came without sound, slipping over her fingers and onto the note.
He was innocent. You always knew it. Now the world will see it.
Yamato drew her into his arms, cradling the weight of a century's sorrow between them. For a long moment they stayed like that, no longer rivals, no longer strangers, the living answer to an old, unsent letter. They requested a meeting with the City Museum's acquisitions director, carrying the collection's entire paper trail in a single leather binder.
This collection tells a story that was nearly erased. Two families torn apart by a theft they never understood.
The curator paged through the provenance report, the unfiled police document, and the tiny note. She closed the folder. Her voice was quiet when she finally spoke. She would recommend a permanent exhibition. Both families' names would hang on the wall.
3 months. We'll need to prepare the pieces, coordinate the layout, contact both families.
And pay off the rest of the loan. But this is what we wanted. For them.
The official letter arrived a week later. Exhibition approved. 2 families, 1 legacy. The date was circled.
2 families. Once strangers, now bound by an exhibition we built from ashes.
They stood in the empty gallery where the collection would soon live, the air heavy with promise and pressure. The countdown had begun. In 90 days, the world would see what they had unearthed, and so would their families. 3 months later, the museum's main hall filled with guests beneath a banner that read, 2 families, 1 legacy. For the first time, members of Yamato's and Reina's families stood in the same room, some meeting across the old divide. An elderly uncle from Yamato's side, and Reina's great-aunt clasped hands, tears tracking their wrinkles. No one spoke of the betrayal. The collection on the walls told a different story now.
Decades of silence, and here they are, shaking hands like old friends.
My grandfather would have given anything to see this.
Yamato and Reina watched from the edge of the crowd, his arm resting near her shoulder.
We did it, but what happens to us after tonight?
The legacy is public, but the space between us still feels unfinished.
The champagne flutes clinked, but the unspoken question lingered. What would they become to each other? When the gallery emptied, Yamato and Reina drifted through the side door to a stone bench beneath the museum portico. The street was quiet, the party noise reduced to a distant hum behind the glass doors.
We've spent so long fighting for their legacy. I think they'd want us to have our own.
What are you saying?
He turned to face her, the lamplight catching the amber in her eyes.
That I don't want to be just your partner in business anymore.
He cupped her cheek, and before she could answer, he kissed her, softly, a promise more than a question.
Finally, this was the missing piece.
When they pulled apart, the world had shifted. The rivalry was nothing now but a strange, distant prelude. Under the museum portico, the first real chapter of them had begun. 1 year later, the sign above the door read Yamato and Reina Antiques, a quiet anchor on a sunlit street. Inside, the exhibition wing told their grandfather's story in a single room. Contracts, letters, and the note, all framed.
A new shipment just arrived. Another lacquer box. No documents this time, but I thought you'd want first look.
We've come full circle, though I promise I won't outbid you for it this time.
On a quiet morning, they stood before a mounted photograph of the original partnership contract, the first page of their shared history.
My grandfather would have been stunned to see his name on a museum wall and on ours.
They found each other too late. We didn't. That's the real restoration.
The gallery had grown into more than a business. It was a living argument that rivalries could heal.
The collection is public, the loan almost paid. But the last piece of this puzzle is still mine to place.
The gallery buzzed with a new client, and the question hung in the air. Unanswered, but waiting. The museum had closed hours ago, but Yamato led Reina back to the gallery where their grandfather's portrait hung.
You've been quiet all evening. Is something on your mind?
Only one thing, but I needed to say it here.
He knelt before her, the velvet box opening to reveal a single marquise diamond.
Will you help me write the next chapter of their story with mine?
After everything, the rivalry, the letters, the note, this is the only answer. Yes, always yes.
Yamato slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands steady despite the pounding in his chest. Above them, Takeshi and Ryohei watched from the frame, partners at last, in every sense. In the silence of the gallery, 2 families became one legacy, bound by a promise neither war nor time could erase. Reina stood before the mirror, the simple gown falling in clean lines, her grandmother's pendant the only ornament.
Today doesn't erase the past, but it proves we survived it.
In the adjoining room, Yamato adjusted his lapel, the single white flower a steady anchor.
This is the chapter they never got to write. It starts now.
They met in the quiet gallery before the ceremony, with only the grandfather's portrait as witness.
I found your grandfather's watch at a restorer. It's ticking again, ready for a new generation.
It was silent for 50 years. Now it's measuring our time. And for you, the mate to your ruby earring, I found it in a forgotten estate lot.
A pair again. Like our families, like us.
They fastened the small tokens of mending, and the empty gallery seemed to hold its breath. The ceremony was held in a sunlit room, the portrait of Takeshi and Ryohei standing beside the altar on an easel. Only a handful of family filled the chairs, yet the room felt impossibly full.
Reina, a year ago we were rivals bidding on a box with no name. Now I can't imagine a life without you in it. I vow to protect what we've built, and to always listen before I raise my paddle.
Yamato, I chased the same pieces as you for a year before I understood why. Today, I am not chasing anymore. I vow to keep chasing our shared legacy, with you as my partner in every sense.
They exchanged rings, simple bands that caught the light, a quiet echo of the watch and earring. The officiant asked them to turn and face the portrait of their grandfathers. A moment of silence passed, not for mourning, but for witness. Then the officiant pronounced them wed. When they turned back, they were husband and wife. The portrait still beside them, partners at last. The reception spilled into the museum hall. Families clustered beneath the same banner from the opening night. Yamato's uncle and Reina's great-aunt sat together, their conversation easy and uninterrupted. No one spoke of the betrayal anymore. The stories shared were of partnership and pride. A photographer motioned everyone beneath the portrait. The groom's side, the bride's side, now one. The flash caught the moment, a single frame of healed history. That photograph would hang in the gallery wing, beside the partnership contract and the tiny note. The collection in the museum belonged to the world now. But the truest restoration happened between two people who stopped bidding against each other long enough to listen. In the end, they had been after the same thing all along, and they found it. In the gallery wing, the wedding photograph found its permanent place, hanging beneath the grandfather's portrait. In memory of Takeshi and Ryohei, whose friendship outlasted a war, a betrayal, and a century. Beside it, the partnership contract and the tiny note completed the wall, a triptych of restored trust. Morning sunlight streamed through the high windows, filling the space with a quiet warmth. The collection stretched beyond, vases and scrolls and the mountain painting, all at rest. The contract that once divided them now anchored the east wall, a foundation of shared identity. And the note remained, a whispered thank you, sealed in glass, undimmed after 70 years. The camera pulled back slowly, the gallery filling the frame with light and silent objects. A story of rivalry that became a story of listening, now told in wood, ink, and light. End.